Welcome to Spider-Verse Minute, the tri-weekly podcast where we watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1 minute at a time. I'm Caroline Slater.
And I'm her brother Sean.
And today we are talking about minute 50. It begins with Peter looking for Miles and ends a minute later with Miles entering the password.
What did you name this minute?
Okay, this might not be my best work, but it also might be my best work. Are you ready?
Yes.
Charming spider, sneaking spider. I had to. It felt appropriate.
Yes.
So the first thing I want to talk about, which is kind of in reference to my title, is Miles' cloaking ability.
Yes.
So
His...
what do they call it here? I've called it the cloaking ability. What is it actually called?
I actually don't... Oh, camouflage. It's just
Camouflage. Okay.
Sorry.
That makes sense. No, it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, does it have a name? I've just been calling it cloaking.
Yeah.
For those who can remember a while back, this was hinted at in minute 13.
It was?
It was! I'm so glad
I don't even remember that far back.
I'm so glad you don't remember this. I remember this. If you remember back in minute 13, during the graffiti montage between Miles and his Uncle Aaron.
Oh, yes,
we see the spider hopping between and changing the colors. We talked about it a little bit in minute 13,
yeah,
but I want to bring it up now.
I thought you meant it was hinted with Miles, and I was like, I don't remember Miles doing anything like that. Okay, yeah.
It does! I'm so glad you didn't remember that. That made me feel all superior. It's like, oh, I remembered something you did. But yeah, I love that. That was hinted at, and then we get to see it with Miles now.
Yeah. And I love, like, Miles just kind of assumes that, like, all his powers are normal, and he's like, can't Spider-Man normally do this? And
It's not in my universe.
And Peter's like, nope, and he just pokes him in the eye. He's like, ow!
The visual they show of, like, when Peter pokes him in the eye.
Yeah, I love the little, like, ripple effect they did, and how it was, just, like, dots that kind of appear and disappear.
Yes.
It's a really cool looking effect.
It's very awesome.
And another thing, too, in the director's commentary, they were talking about how hard it was to get the Miles invisible looking good.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things they brought up was they used to, and I don't know how much of an exaggeration this is, but they said they used 70 different versions of invisible Miles.
Oh, jeez.
Of just different ways of visualizing him as invisible. Mm-hmm. And it took about a year for them to figure it out, which is pretty crazy. I can imagine a lot of those might be, like, really similar designs.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
And, like, how to get him turning invisible and uninvisible, or I guess uninvisible would just be visible.
Yeah.
And they were inspired by Sue Storm, and how she, Miss Invisible, whatever her name is. But yeah, the Mr. Fantastic's wife. Yeah,
that actually kind of coincides with a question that just popped into my head. When Miles first discovers this invisibility powers in the comics, do his clothes also go invisible with him?
Yeah. Okay,
so even if he's wearing, like, non-superhero clothes, it, like, changes with him.
Yes, yeah, it's not just like the Invisible Man running around with.
Well, I didn't know if this was like a violent situation where he needed, like, a special suit.
He's like, quick, I gotta turn invisible, and just starts taking off his pants. Like...
I mean, they've done that joke with other people.
Yeah, okay? I know. It's just funny.
Like, I was just curious, like, is that, like, an actual decision, like, with the powers, or if it's, like...
It seems to be I don't know if you can extend it to other people. Mm-hmm. I don't remember that ever happening, but it seems to be at least his clothing and backpack and what constitutes quote-unquote him.
Yeah. So, like, it almost is, like, almost a certain, like, invisibility force field in a way.
Yeah, but it's kind of, Mm-hmm. But it's not, like, it adheres to the shape of the things.
Okay. Yeah.
And not like it's not like he's creating a bubble around him and anything inside of the bubble is invisible.
Yeah. I was just really curious.
Yeah.
Because I know, again, I bring up Violet from The Incredibles.
Yeah, it's different from her fields.
Yeah, like her fields. Well, like when she would turn invisible, like her clothes wouldn't, and Edna made a specific suit that would turn invisible with her.
Yeah.
So I was just very curious about that. Speaking of turning invisible.
Yes.
First off, I love how they call it like a fight or flight response.
Yeah.
And the thing that kind of made me chuckle was like, Miles was like, "What's that?" And then the door opens and he just pops out of existence.
Yes, and I love how they have him pop out in a single frame. Like it's one
Right?
frame he's there, the next frame he's next. Instead of having it like do the ripple effect, going over his body and him turning invisible, and they just make him completely invisible. Like it's a really good one-off gag where he just disappears completely.
It was so funny.
Yeah. And also, though, like, I feel like he should know what the flight or flight, that is. That's something you learned pretty early in biology class.
Right?
And he should have had biology at this point. If they're talking about parallel dimensions in physics, like, that should have been last year's.
You know what? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt
Science
and think
class.
he's a little overwhelmed right now, and he just had a mind relapse. He's like, "What's that again?"
Okay. Maybe.
It's...
That, or just it's another point to the failing schools. Schools failing to educate our kids. Where are our taxpayer monies going?
It's a private school.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I think it's a charter school.
Oh, it might be a charter school.
Which gets some taxpayer money, maybe.
Anyway. This brings us to Peter giving Miles the password.
Yes.
Do you have the password? Because after so many viewings, I still don't get it.
Yes, it is capital D.
Okay.
And then everything else is lowercase. So then it's GFAMPESAND ampersand. So close to being an ampersand. $4 $358765309. Just kidding.
That's what it was. Is I was kind of believing you there.
Yeah, the 8675 is so close to the 8. See, I even screwed it up there. The 8765. Like every time I hear that, I want to complete the 8675309.
Yeah.
But no, it's after the or after the dollar sign. It's 3587653454545. So it's
a lot.
Let me count it real quick.
It's a lot. That's what it is.
A 27 character long password.
That is an insane password.
I really want to know, like, is that her phone number, or like, is it a mix between like, oh, this is her birthday and phone number, or
did she just make it up and have it memorized?
Yeah.
Like, I'm really curious. Also, this is a follow-up question for you. Did you actually memorize that password, or do you just have the script in front of you?
I just have the script and read it from the script.
Okay.
I literally copied and pasted it from the script.
That's all I needed to know. Now I feel less inferior.
And then, skipping ahead just a little bit, when Miles is typing in the password, out loud he's saying the 3454543 part.
Mm-hmm.
And then he asks for the last 2 characters, except that leaves only 1 character left. It goes, the last character, the character he's missing is 5. But when he's typing it in, we see like it does the normal password thing where it flashes like the character before making it like the circle or star.
Yeah.
And we see him type in D for $. And so the 3-5 we're given is like the middle of the password, because it goes D4 $3-5 and then 876 blah blah blah. So he asks for the last characters, and it's nowhere near the end, which makes me partially think they had a much shorter password at some point.
Yeah, probably.
They only had like I bet it was DGF ampersand $3-5, but ampersand spelled out, and they changed it at some point to be like, oh no, that's not long enough or funny enough. And so they just had him say a bunch of numbers after it. Like, I bet you those numbers, IRL, those numbers were like ad-libbed.
Probably.
And then just had to make sure that 3-5 was on the end of it to get that joke to work. But they didn't fix the visual of typing it in.
You know what? I don't blame them.
Yeah. But I just, that's a neat little, like, you know, you wouldn't notice it. And, like, at one point it was probably that, like, okay, they paid close attention to this detail and got it pretty close. But then when they went and changed something, they didn't go back, and it probably would have been too much to go back and change it. And
and, like, people are like, well, why didn't they go back and change it? It's like, because animation is a lot. Even with, like, we've talked about it before, even with computers. To go back and change a small detail like that is quite a bit of work. I
mean, it's a mix between quite a bit of work and just waiting. Like, to fix it wouldn't have been a whole lot of work, but then you would have had to re-render everything, which does take a lot of,
That's the thing. That's where it is.
Computer work, not human work necessarily.
I just said a lot of work. I didn't say who the work belonged to.
That's true.
But, like, that's what I mean. Like, people are like, well, that's a silly detail. Why did they fix it? It's like, do you realize how long animation takes?
Yeah.
As much as we appreciate the small details, it just is an extra step that they did that is time put into. There were parts we talked about in the previous minute that were like hand drawn. The shading is hand drawn, right?
Yeah, some of the some of the lighting for prowlers during the chase.
That was it. Yeah.
Through the subway, they did some of the lighting by hand
and that
instead of having it computer generated.
And that took how long? Do you remember how long it took them? Because you said
a while.
It took them a while to do just that.
Oh, I know what you're thinking of. I think is the lines on the faces.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that they did by hand, and that took like a quarter. That was done at like a quarter or a third of the speed of normal animation.
Yeah, it's a long process. So
yeah, that's different from this though.
Oh, definitely. But I just I like to use that as an example of like, well, it's not that animation isn't fast, y'all. Yeah. Moving on from that and back into the minute, we get first off, we get Peter really pressuring Miles to like go to the computer and get the password, and then he's like, "Mom, put on the charm."
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, first off, I couldn't help but think of Flynn Rider from Tangled.
Yeah.
Where it's like, here comes the smolder. It's like, I'm gonna put on the charm. Like, oh no. It's like, we're gonna have Spider-Man in sweatpants and no shoes. Really?
Really putting on the charm.
Oh no.
And I love how he's like shocked too. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were gonna come back into your office."
Right,
like,
and like
how shocking.
His pose of leading, he's like, "Oh, I didn't see." It's like, what are you doing?
His sexy pose.
His sexy pose. There were a few things I noticed. This is actually when I noticed the awards.
Yeah.
I didn't notice them in the previous minute, I noticed them in this minute. You see like the 3 medals up on like the bookshelf. And then you see 3 framed pieces of paper by the wall.
Yeah, I'm guessing those are probably like more doctorates that she has.
And that's what I was thinking.
Like,
it's like they look like certificates and stuff. The other thing I noticed is like right below that, by some equipment, there's one of the arms.
Yeah, and this one is clearly a prototype arm. Like it's one of the earlier models of arms that she had. Because it's not that same
like silicone
yellowish, and the claws are more claw-like. Yeah,
it reminds me. It makes me think it might almost be a small reference, and I could be totally wrong. To maybe not to this specifically, but to like how Doc Ock's arms have been portrayed in the past, which is more metal.
Yeah,
where hers seem to be more silicone in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and
We'll get more into that then.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that when they're completely revealed, when the final version is completely revealed.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing that like that specific arm reminded me of was the recent, I say in quotes, PS4 Spider-Man game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That Doc Ock in that game has similar arm extensions where they're more of that metal classic style.
Yeah, and then when she comes in, she immediately is like, "Oh, Spider-Man, I thought you were dead," and then immediately just and then just immediately grabs his like mask and takes it off, and he's like, "That's a no-no." One thing I noticed too is he says, "We don't like that."
Yeah.
Which could be taken as just like either superheroes or like specifically the spider people, but I also like to think it was actually a slip up and he really meant like, Miles and him don't like doing that.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh yeah, the two of us in this room. I mean, just the one of us in this room.
the two of us, not three. Two.
Yeah. I still love that little, like, they used that gag when him and Miles were talking or fighting earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I like how they bring it up again here.
What made me think of like the whole oh that's a no made me think of Miles's Spider-Man in a less uplifting fun scene when Kingpin takes this universe's Peter's mask off. He says a very similar thing.
Yeah,
it's less funny there.
Yeah.
It's much funnier. This is really actually the first time, though, that I realized, oh, hey, they said the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's
well,
just
you know what
the
they
Peter
say,
thing,
great
huh?
minds think alike.
It's just the Peter thing, then, huh?
Yeah.
The last things I want to bring up are the, it feels like constant comments on Peter's stomach.
Yeah.
His shape. Like, this comes up a lot. So first we get we get Miles saying, why are you a different shape? I think you just called me fat. No, I didn't. And then we get Doc here saying that there was, I forget how she worded it, but like some little rounder probably from the warping. And Peter's like, yeah, I was way flatter before I warped. And then later we get Aunt May making a comment about it too.
Yeah.
She's like, everyone's just going after his stomach. Oh my gosh. It just makes me laugh. That it's like, this is like a running joke in this movie. Like, why?
Yeah, and after she says that, like, she just kind of is completely ignoring him and is just like mumbling to herself then.
You're right.
Since that's everything we have for this minute, thank you for joining us. Come back again on Friday where we talk about minute 51 and see if Miles is able to figure out the rest of the password. Spoiler alert. He dies.
What? Thanks for listening.
Bye.